Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I start this with the name of Almighty Allah. I welcome you to the first video of the series of videos which will be made for HPC or Beowulf clusters. HPCC or high performance compute clusters or computing clusters or supercomputing or supercomputers, they are all synonyms which will be used throughout this video interchangeably. The objective to make these videos or objective for making these videos is to empower you to have your own supercomputer at your own desk. Simple words. Or in other words, you can say that I want you to fully grasp the knowledge of setting up a Beowulf cluster or an HPC cluster so that you can use it for your programming, system administration, testing, development at your own home, at your own desk without any problems. But in these videos I'm not suggesting you to have a multiple node hardware based cluster because that's not feasible. The entire idea behind these videos is to show you how this HPC cluster can be set up in a virtualized environment using VMware or any other virtualization technology you are used to. Well, I'm going to use VMware and I'm going to show you how you can set up an HPC cluster in a virtual environment. Please note that in virtual environment the CPU is divided across the number of nodes you will create. So technically speaking, you will not get a performance boost once you run your multi-node program or MPI program on your virtual cluster. But this cluster will help you to test your program, whatever you will write. If you are a system administrator, it will help you understand how various moving parts move, how they are set up, how they are administered, etc. So there are so many uses of this virtual technology for this HPC that you'll just marvel at this. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some virtual machines in VMware server, which is free, of course. I'm going to set up Linux CentOS. Should write version 5. I think I have version 5.2 on these machines, and I'm going to then set up SSH and user equivalents and parallel shell, NFS, and at the end I'm going to install MPI and I'm going to install linpack to do the benchmarking for your cluster. This is how we will proceed. In the later videos we will cover, let me write here, in later videos we will cover various job scheduling programs such as PBS slash OpenPBS. Then we will also be discussing various cluster management software such as ROX and Oscar, etc. The reason I'm not covering these technologies here is very simple, because you will be setting up a 2-node or a few node cluster, I would say, in virtual environment. You would not be bothered it would be trivial for you to set up Linux machines, 2 or 3 or 4 Linux machines manually, and it would be much easier to submit jobs on your MPI programs on your cluster, because most of the time you would only be submitting one program, one job on your cluster. After all, it's a virtual cluster and you would not want to bog it down with multiple programs which you want to run. That's why I'm not going to show you PBS or OpenPBS at the moment. Once we'll have a hardware cluster, which I plan to have in near future, I'll show you how these things actually work. I will also show you that how you can set up the, the cluster, how you can manage cluster without using any of cluster management utilities such as rocks or whatever is described above. This will in fact help you understand how DHCP works, how TFTP works in an HPC environment, in a Beowulf cluster environment. Okay, in these videos I'm going to use HPC most of the time. That would mean Beowulf. That would also mean HPCC. That would also mean supercomputing or supercomputer. With that said, let's move on to the VMware setup. I have a machine here which has, this is my one of the workstations here. It has VMware installed already in it. For those who don't know about VMware, you just go to www.vmware.com. I should write here .vmware.com. They have excellent products, excellent virtualization software. Most popular is VMware Workstation. Then they have VMware Server, which was previously known as VMware GSX Server. It's now free. And they also have VMware ESX Server, which is now being used for production environments across the world. Excellent tool. So download VMware Server from this vmware.com. It will require some registration, and that is all. Okay, so that said, let's fire up our browser and let's have localhost :822. Once you set up VMware, you would get VMware access URL as this one on 822 on simple HTTP. You can also use HTTPS localhost 833. So accept this certificate permanently. Okay, fine. You will get the same interface: root, password Red Hat. Okay, so this is how VMware Server's new interface looks like. Alright, this is how the VMware interface looks like through the web browser. This is a cluster which you can see on the left side, these nodes and front end. It's already defined. This is being used for some Scali experimentation. Scali is again a cluster management software. Scali is now known as platform. You can go to platform.com and check that. Anyway, we're going to leave these nodes as it is, and we are going to go to virtual machines, and we are going to create virtual machine. I'm going to create a virtual machine in my standard data store, and I'm going to name this as Beowulf. Let's call it HPC master. Next, and it's going to have Linux operating system. It's going to have 2.632-bit was CentOS. It should be here. Red Hat. Okay, Red Hat 5 32-bit. Click this and then press next. Okay, the size I'm going to give to the master node is the size of RAM I'm going to give to the master node. It's going to be, let's say, 1 GB, 024 MB. I have 4 GB of physical RAM in this machine. I'm going to give it one processor only. Next, then I'm going to give create new virtual disk. I'm going to give it 3 GB only, and none of these options actually need any setting, so just 3 GB. Location is standard data store, and this will be the name of the file. Press next. Network adapter, yes. I am going to use bridged network, and use physical D drive, no. I'm going to use an ISO image which I have here in my data store CD images. I have CentOS 5.2 i386 DVD. I'm going to use this as an ISO image. Next, no floppy drive, no USB. This is going to be how it looks like, so let's press finish. Okay, you see this HPC master is appeared here and it has been created. Let's create two more nodes. I'm going to have one master and two compute nodes in my HPC cluster. So create new virtual machine, cancel that. I think I can create a clone. No, it's the cloning option is not available in in VMware server. Okay, so I'll create another machine. I'll use standard data store. I'll name it as HPC node 1. Next, I'm going to create Linux, Red Hat Linux 5. What is this? Red Hat Linux 5 32-bit. Next, going to give it 1 GB of RAM, one processor. Create new virtual disk. I'll give it 3 GB. Next, network adapter, yes. I'm going to give bridge network to this one as well. I'm going to give ISO image to the CD drive, which is going to be CD images CentOS 5.2. okay, press next. No floppy drive, no USB drive, and finish. Okay, one more node to go, so let's create new machine. Let's call it HPC node 2, and I'll create it in standard data store. Next, Linux, and I'm going to use Red Hat Linux 5. Next, 32-bit, and I'm going to give it 1 GB RAM, one processor. Next, yes, create new virtual disk. I'm going to give it 3 GB of disk space. Next, add network adapter, yes. Use bridged networking. Next, use ISO image instead of CD-ROM, and it's in CDs and CentOS 5.2. Press next. Don't use floppy, don't use USB, and finish. Okay, you see that 3 machines were created, and we have some system messages coming in the window at the bottom. I'm going to create I'm going to install Linux on the master node. So let's click here and let's start this machine. Let's go to console and click on this to have a machine's console visible to you. That's how, and will show you It's booting up. Come on. Okay, it has booted up from the CD image, and it's now going into the install mode. I'll just click here inside. So once it asks for input, press skip the media check. Okay, now this is going to be trivial, of course. I'm just going to cover very quickly the installation of OneNote. I just need very basic text mode setup in which I want development tools, development libraries. These are the things I would be needing. So I'll be pausing this video at times, and I'll just be showing you the screens which you would be interested to see. Okay, this is a question being asked for the partitioning. I'm going to show you very briefly what partition I want. There is no rocket science in it. Create custom layout, go to next, and I'll just create a swap partition, which is going to be not more than 256 MB. Rather, I think 128 MB is also enough for it, because I don't want any swapping in the first place. So since my applications will not be swapping, I don't need this much of swap space. But your requirements may vary. Again, this is not for production environment, this is for testing environment. And you press OK and create a new mount point, extended 3, and give it all the allowable space. Press OK. Okay, here you go. You've got like 3 GB of root file system and 1 swap disk. That is all you need. Just press next. Yes, next. Okay, it's going to have the host name as in simple words, master node, and it's going to have manual IP. I'm going to give it 110.0.0.20, and I'm going to give it 255.255.0. Okay, there's no gateway, no DNS for them, so just press next. Okay, press continue. We don't want any gateway, no DNS, and let's specify your time zone, which is going to be somewhere around here, I suppose. System clock doesn't use. Okay, let's set this. Press next. Specify the password as Red Hat. Press next, and I don't want any desktop on this one. Okay, my mouse is behaving a bit weird, so no desktop. Rather, instead I'll just say customize now, and I'll just select packages from here. Okay, no desktop. I want editors. Okay, I want dev libraries. I want dev tools. Java is not required at the moment. Servers, I don't need any servers on this one, except nothing. Go to base system. I need base. I don't need dial-up for my system, and I don't need virtualization, I don't need clustering, I don't need cluster storage as well, and I don't need support for extra languages. So that is all I need right now. Alright, so just move to next, press next to start installation, and soon we'll be done. So I'm pausing the video here. Alright, this system is now completely installed, so let's select reboot from here. I would like to tell you that at the same time that your nodes in your HPC cluster should be of the same hardware, same processor architecture, and they also should have the same version of the operating system you're using. Our system is now booting up, so this is how you would install Linux. Of course, you all know how to install Linux on a virtual machine. Now we've got 2 more nodes to go on which we need to install Linux operating system. Now what I can do is I can set this up, this machine. I can disable extra services on this. I can once I am happy with the configuration of this system, I can simply try a trick of copying the files from the back end in VMware, because this version of VMware server does not support cloning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down this server, this system, this virtual machine, and I'm going to copy its disk file. Let me show you. Okay, so it's turned off. Let's go to the back end and cd/cd vmachines, and we have this HPC master directory, which we have these files. As you can see, this is your virtual machine disk file. This is only consumed 1.6 GB. So I'm going to copy this file, and let's see if I have HPC node 1, yes, minus LH. I have 4 files there: VMDK, VMST, and so and so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this VMDK file from here and overwrite this VMDK file here, and VMSD file as well, but this is only 0 bytes, so I don't need to change it. So by doing that, I would be able to sort of clone, and I'm going to save the time of the actual installation on each node in VMware. So here, let's do that. Copy HPC master.vmdk to /HPC node 1 HPC node 1 VMDK. Overwrite yes. Right, the file is copied now. So let's go and let's check the list first. Okay, this is HPC node 1 VMDK 1.6 GB. Let's try starting node 1. Let's see what happens. Click power on, success. Click on the console to get the console window like this, and let it boot. It seems booting up. Great. It will have all the settings from your HPC master. That means it will also have the same host name, same IP, everything. By the way, I should have disabled some extra services like send mail, XFS, no, X file system, and I should also have disabled cups and all that stuff, but anyway, we'll do that later on. We'll disable the services afterwards. So it's getting the IP information. Why it's getting from DHCP? It should not. Okay, so somebody remind me of disabling this Bluetooth as well. Okay, this is booted up now, so let's go to root Red Hat. Of course, it seems like master node, but it is not. It is, as you can see here, this is HPC node 1. We'll change that. In the same way, I'll do the second node as well, and I'll adjust the host names. Let me show you just very quickly. Let me show you very quickly how it's to be done. Node 1. Okay, and the IP is going to be sysconfig network scripts ifconfig ethernet 0. It should not get its IP from DHCP. It's going to be static. IP address is equal to 10.0.0.11. Yes, right, this is going to be 11. Net mask is equal to 255.255.255.0. that is all. So yeah, one more thing, etc hosts. Let's delete this IP version 6 line. Let's go here, change this master node, remove this master node at all. So it should just look like this at the moment. I'll do the other configurations afterwards. So that's all. Service syslog, no, let's change the host name manually. Host name is node 1, and service syslog restart. That will make sure that the logs in the various log messages now gets written correctly. Shift G. You can see as soon as I've restarted syslog, the logs here, it says node 1 now. Before it was master node. Okay, anyway, quit that and let's give it a reboot, and I'll just stop this video here as well. I'll do the other node while this video is stopped. I'll fix the IPs and I'll come back to you with all 3 nodes with Linux installed, with their services disabled and all that stuff, very basic stuff. And then we'll also not use this VNC setup. We'll just be using a smaller screen, and we'll also be using only the SSH window because we don't need this anymore. Okay, thank you for watching, and let's go ahead for part 2 of this video.